Well, I'm very happy to join you all the devotees, and on the special day, and as we have been having this week celebrations of Ram Navami, Vyas Puja, and so on, and Sarvartak Prabhu and their family have been involved in New Orleans and also doing programs from Mayapur, and I watched those. They were very inspiring. And so he had asked me to talk about chapter 11, to start chapter 11. And I would kind of, before we go to the verses today, I will give you a view of what we have been discussing before. And the significance of Bhagavad Gita and how to look at it with the main inquisitive idea of what is it this presents. It is a science, as we know, at least to me. It is not just, going by whatever is said, but if you analyze it, it is very scientific. It goes into the material and spiritual dimensions. And the whole Bhagavad Gita, you can put it in three parts. The first 6 chapters, the next 6, and then the last 6. And the first 6 chapters, and as I'm talking, I think you all have Bhagavad Gita. You can look through now or later. The whole thing is like what is in a verse, Tattvam Asti. And that Tvam is first, it addresses, of course, it starts with the battlefield at Kurukshetra, but it goes to the question as Arjuna asked, Shri Krishna, as to his function and what is going on there. The first 6 chapters talk about who we are in a way. And our other yoga philosophy and scriptures explain us. We all know we are body, mind, and spirit, and so on. Or there are other 3 levels of the body: physical, astral, causal. And then we know that we can look at a living entity with 5 layers. Annamaya kosha. Anna means food, of course, related to food, which is the outer surface. Pranamaya kosha. Without the breath, of course, we all know the significance of prana. You all know the several techniques that can be used there, but that is the Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, then it's Manomaya kosha. The problem is not to understand just our physical condition, which goes through, the whole body goes through jara, mrityu, janam, mrityu, jara, vyadhi, after we are born. And none of the living entities is excluded. Everybody goes through that. The birth, janam, and at the end, of course, is mrityu, jara. We all get old, and vyadhi, and we all have impediments as we go through life. So there are, of course, we see that in all these first 6 chapters, how this turmoil goes on and who we are and how we can manage it. Some of the verses in chapter 6 are very noteworthy. Arjun says, all this, techniques, Krishna, that you are telling me, because Krishna was a friend of Arjun too. We know that, even though he's supreme personality of Godhead. And he's asking in chapter 6, he talks about he says this, my mind cannot concentrate the way you have told me, whether Hatha Yoga or these other yogas, all of these techniques. And he says, my mind chanchalhi man Krishna pramathi balvadridam tasya aham nigraham manye vayur eva sudushkaram. My mind is like Vayu. I cannot control it. So Krishna says, yes, that is true. Our mind, of course, and mind is many a times the cause of our troubles. Those who can manage their mind can have a better life and better outcome in life. So Krishna explains in the next verse, Asanshayam Mahabaho Mano Durni Graham Chalam Abhyasen tu Konteya Vairagyen Chagrahayati. So Abhyas means you have to practice, practice, and practice. So what looks easy is not easy unless you practice it. And the second thing is we get troubled because we get involved in some way, and the mind has a tendency of duality. And to overcome that, one needs vairagya. That means detachment. So these first 6 chapters give us training about who we are. And then I said, Tat Tvam Asi. Tat means now from chapter 7 on, what do we see? The person, we all have a feeling that there is a God and superconscious and supreme personality. So the 7th chapter goes into the knowledge of the absolute. So I won't go into all the details, but just touching, in which Krishna says, Bijam Mam Sarva Bhutana, that I am the source of all living entities, whether moving or unmoving. I don't think anybody of you will argue with that. There is a supreme nature behind. We cannot, and we know in other chapters, we have seen in other Upanishads also, that God is within as well as without. He manages our material as well as spiritual nature. We have both of these components. And then in chapter 7, there is another thing. Who wants to know God? See, if you don't have a desire, you are not going to know. It's very simple. There is a verse, I think, in chapter 7, which tells that 4 types of people want to know God. Chaturveda bhajante mam jana sukritano Arjuna. Krishna is saying to Arjun that those pious people, sukritana Arjuna, are 4 types, Chaturveda. So one is Artho, Jigyasur, Artha Arthi, Jnani cha Bhartarshabha. So who are those 4 types of people? One, who are in distress, Artho, Jigyasu, who have the inquisitiveness to find the truth, to touch the truth, to see the truth. All the sages, the real sages I'm talking about, they have taken that, because of their inquisitiveness, taken that journey. Some succeed and some don't. Artha Arthi are those who are the mundane people who are desirous of wealth. Of course, we need wealth, but that is their only interest. And then Jnani. Our problem is we, as we progress in life, we still are from Agyan to Gyan and Vigyan, and all of that happens. But a person needs Jnani, which has a person who has the true knowledge. And that is a 4th condition. So Krishna says that is how the absolute knowledge is, that he is the source of all the creation. Then the next chapter goes on to attaining the supreme. So why are we doing all these bhajan symbols? We do music to inspire us to keep us on the right path. And we want to see how do you attain the supreme? And in chapter 8, one of the verses says, Om iti akshar Brahma. Of this whole Brahma, all this universe, Om is one of the syllables which represents the cosmic energy, you can say, or the power. So with all the mantras before, we have Om many times. And he says, and there is a whole Upanishad on Om. And if you put it like AUM, it is the beginning, the middle, and the end. So everything is included in that. Now, next chapter went into, now we are all talking about the reality, the God, the source. How does that function? How living entities can relate to that, attain that. Next chapter goes into the most confidential knowledge. Raj Vidya Raj Guhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam. That is the most confidential knowledge. Raj Guhyam. Raj Vidya, it is also the most supreme knowledge, because we are talking about trying to understand what God is. So it is not, it includes everything, but it is on a different plane than the mundane plane or the material plane or the normal, routine activities. And in that, we talk about that knowledge and how do we get that. The next chapter 10, which was the last chapter, that is about, okay, what is the opulence of the absolute, the supreme personality? We are trying to look at the divine qualities. It's also called Vibhuti Yoga. All the Vibhutis, all the opulences which are there in God. So Krishna tells Arjuna some of his, including his all material spiritual manifestations. He says of the mountains, he's like Himalaya, of the Vedas, he's like Samveda, and so on, all the qualities. So I wouldn't go more into detail, but, and also we saw that attaining the supreme, we have different lokas and so on, and how one can transcend. And even though I've said it is scientific, very scientific, you can also, they call it transcendental science when we look at Bhagavad Gita. So the next chapter, which is the one today, we are, Arjun requests Krishna to, he says, okay, I have understood. In chapter 10th, last chapter, he says, I have understood everything. He has explained to him how this functions, the whole knowledge, the absolute knowledge. But he says that he requests, by now he says to Lord Krishna, he knows that he is the supreme personality of Godhead. He says, okay, I want to see. Basically what he's saying, like many of you may have that question. Okay, what is that God? Show me God. Have you seen God? So we are still on that tat part, tat tvamasi. So the question is, okay, I know this much, but I still don't get the whole reality. And that vision or realization is what we are going to study in this chapter. And that will bring us to the Vishwarup of Lord Krishna, or the universal forms. When I was thinking about the start of this chapter and the verses, the first verse of Isha Upanishad came to my mind. Isha means, of course, Ishwar. It is about Ishwar. It is about God. And it says, Isha avasya idam sarvam yat kinchai jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita magrid kasya svidhanam. That says, this is from the Upanishad, it is talking about that Ishwar, that God, that Supreme Personality, is the one Isha Vasya Idam Sarvam. In every manifestation that you see of living entities, moving or unmoving, that you see Yat Kinchay Jagatyam Jagat, that has been produced in this world. And also the next line says Tena Tyaktena Bhunjita, that the sage is saying that even though there is all this material manifestation around you, you have to be detached. In other words, be in the form of a renunciant or be detached while living in the life. Magre the kasya svidadhanam, and don't covet others, share, and don't be jealous of them. And it is, renounce and rejoice. So that is the indication, and that is what we will look at in this particular chapter. So let us, can we put the first verse of chapter 11 as we start the journey on seeing the universal form? Please put verse 11:1. Hello? Are you there? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Okay, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I thought I lost your connection. Okay. Is it
Sorry,
possible you can?
our microphone, we changed the microphone connections right now.
Okay,
Yes,
no problem.
we can share the verse.
You can share the verse, yeah, or else I can just read it, whatever. But maybe if you put it, it'll be easier to read. Well, while we are waiting for that, okay, we got it. Yes. So this seeing the universal form, Vishwarup form, is perhaps the most difficult part in realizing. But Arjuna was a very close friend of Krishna, and he's saying, and he already in the last chapter he understands the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so he doesn't have any difficulty with that. But he's saying, Mad anugrahai paramam guhyatam adhyatma sangita yat tvayoktam vachastena moho ayam vigato mama. So the word per word, of course, translation is there, and if we come down, so Madanugrahaya means on my wrist. The Paramam Guhyam Adhyatma Sangitam, that by my hearing the instructions you have given me about the most confidential spiritual subjects. Yat Tvay Oktam, Tvay means you, Oktam means you, what you have spoken to me already, Krishna, Vachastain, by speaking, Moho Ayam Vigito Mama. Arjuna's illusion has been already dispelled. Okay. The chapter reveals, if you go to the purport, the cause of all causes. So And Krishna is the source of all incarnations. We have gone over this before too. Now, as far as Arjuna is concerned, he says that his illusion is over. This means that Arjuna no longer thinks of Krishna as a mere human being or as a friend, but as source of everything. Arjuna is very enlightened and is glad that he has a great friend. But now he is thinking that although he may accept Krishna as source of everything, others may not. So he is doing this, he's asking this question again, requesting that Krishna show him the universal form. So in order to establish that divinity of Krishna, he's requesting him to show his universal form or Vishwarup form. Actually, when one sees this form, one becomes frightened. But Krishna is so kind that after showing it, he converts himself again into his original form. So Krishna is speaking to him so that for his benefit. So Arjuna acknowledges that all this is happening to him by Krishna's grace. He is convinced that Krishna is the cause of all causes. Okay, let's go to the next verse. Bhava apyayo hi bhutanam shruto vistarasho maya tvata kamal patraksh mahatmayam apicha avyayam. He says, we are talking about that reality. Tvata kamal patraksh, you lotus-eyed Krishna. I have heard from you in detail about the appearance and disappearance of all living entities. I think we all know that. I talked about Janam, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Any of the living entity have to go from birth to death and the deterioration. And they have realized you're these Mahatmayam, magnificent and inexhaustible, Avyayam, glories. Okay, that he has heard from Krishna and he has realized these capacities and capabilities of Krishna. So let's go to the purport. This is a difficult topic. Arjuna is addressing Lord Krishna as lotus eyes. Out of his joy, for Krishna assured him in the previous chapter, Aham Kritsanasya Jagata Prabhava Pralayasaha. That is chapter 7, verse 6, which is Aham Kritsanasya Jagata Prabhava Pralayastatha. What that means is, this is verse 7-6, I think, that I am all inclusive. And the Jagat Prabhava means of the word, I am both the origin of the appearance and disappearance of this whole world. So that is part of the absolute knowledge which we discussed in chapter 7. So Arjuna has already heard of this form of the Lord in detail, and we have gone through those chapters too. Arjuna further knows that in the spirit, in spite of his being the source of all appearances and disappearance, he is aloof from them. As the Lord has said in the 9th chapter, he is all pervading, yet he is not personally present everywhere. That is the inconceivable opulence of Krishna when Arjuna admits that he has thoroughly understood. So I know some of you may be thinking, oh, okay, all right. There may be still some doubt. That is the doubt which Krishna is going to clear it off. Okay. Let's go to the next verse. Evam etad, that's verse 3. Evam etad yath atha tvam atmanam parameshvara drishtum ichhami te rupam ashwaram purushottama. Please pay attention to each word. Evam etad, and it is talking about yatha at, as this have been spoken by you, Tvamatmanam Parameshwar, the Supreme Lord. O Supreme Lord, go to the translation. O greatest of all personalities, O Supreme Form, though I see you here before me in your actual position as you have described yourself, I wish to see you how you have entered into this cosmic manifestation. I want to see that form of yours. So he's requesting, Arjuna is requesting for that cosmic manifestation. And Parameshwar, Supreme Lord, is further going to elaborate on and show him that form. Okay, in the purport, the Lord said that because he entered into the material universe by personal representation, cosmic manifestation has been made possible and going on. So, but in order to convince others in the future who may think Krishna is an ordinary person, Arjuna desires to see him actually in the universal form. So he wants Vishwarup form. And you know, we know intuitively, but he wants to see that. He's acting from within the universe, although he's a part of it. So I think we can continue. And if you look through the purport, the people, therefore, at the end of the purport of this verse, is talking about the universal form. Arjuna wants to see that universal form to convince others, basically. Arjuna has no desire to see him in his universal form, but because he is already satisfied, but he wants to see it for others. And he understands that Arjuna wants to see the universal form, for in the future there will be so many impostors who would pose themselves as incarnations of God. So the people, therefore, should be careful. One who claims to be Krishna should be prepared to show his universal form to confirm his claim to the people. Okay, let's go to the next verse. So the request is going on. And the next verse says, Manyase yadi tat shakyam maya drishtum iti prabhu yogeshwar tato me tvam darshaya atmanam avyayam. Manyase yadi tad shakyam. Manyase means if out of your free, manyase of your mind, if you think that I'm qualified, you know, O Supreme Lord Parameshwar, and notice he is talking to Parameshwar. People have called him also Yogeshwar, who was able to control all the Yogmaya and come to the reality. So let's go to the translation a little bit lower. If you think that I am able to behold your cosmic form, O my Lord, O Master of all mystic power, then kindly show me that unlimited universal self. It is said, go to the purport, it is said that one can neither see, hear, understand, nor perceive the Supreme Lord by material senses. I think this line, Swami Prabhupada was adept in writing so clearly that people cannot question. I think it becomes very clear as to how he explains it. And I will ask you to reflect on it, think about it. If you want to see something spiritual, how can you see it with your material eyes? It is just not possible. We know the limitations of our seeing, smell, touch. We don't have, for example, smell perception, much less than even of animals. So we cannot see the spiritual dimension with our material senses, with our frail conditioning. So in the next line, he says, but if one is engaged in the loving transcendental service to the Lord from the beginning, then one can see the Lord by revelation. Now, this concept of revelation is in Christianity, in other places too, but think about it. The only way it is possible is every living entity is only a spiritual spark. Swami Prabhupada has said at many places, and I think one can realize that who we are parts and parcels of that Supreme Personality of Godhead. So every living entity is only a spiritual spark. Therefore, it is not possible to see, to understand the Supreme Lord. So Arjuna, as a devotee, he admits his limitation and acknowledges his inestimable, Krishna's inestimable position. Okay? So Arjuna could understand that for a living entity, it is not possible to understand the infinite. If the infinite reveals himself, then it is possible to understand the nature. So if he likes, he can reveal himself by his grace. So there is a concept of grace, and we know that the faith and devotion are the tools for realization. Mental argument is not going to be helping. And that is what is going on. So at the end of this purport of verse 4, he doesn't give Krishna orders. He's requesting. He's obliged. He's not obliged. Krishna is not obliged to reveal himself unless one surrenders fully in Krishna consciousness, God consciousness, and engages in devotional service. Thus, it is not possible for persons who depend on the strength, okay, of their material speculations to see Krishna. So we have covered the first few verses, and one can see the Lord through his grace, and it requires effort. And there is, separatedness as well as the unity of our living entities with the Supreme Lord. It has been shown in several other places. And before I finish, I'm thinking, I had read a story that Swami Vivekananda in his young youth age, he had been, looking at and trying to understand as to when he went to look for his spiritual master, Narendra, as he was called then, he was going to different sages and asking the simple question, have you seen God? Have you seen God? So several, he was not satisfied. He went to one, to the other, and so on. Then he went to Calcutta to this other sage, and he said, have you seen God? And this was Ramakrishna. He said, yes, I have seen. I can see him more clearly than I can see you. So it, of course, requires faith and understanding. However, we have started the path of, in this chapter, of looking at the Vishwarup form of Shri Krishna. We see it, of course, in our limited experience, that there is a spiritual spark in the ant and in the elephant, in all living entities. There is no doubt. If one doesn't have has still doubt or speculation or So it connects to the whole thing, and we will in continuation look at the Vishwarup form. And the last chapter, chapter 12, which will talk about the whole reality, is on devotional service. That is, devotional service is like your athletic exercise for physical success. Devotional service, which the devotees of Hare Krishna do, getting up early and practicing and reading and meditating, Dhyana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and without these, it is not possible. So I think that is the exercise we are in. I pray that we all succeed. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ravi Divanji, for such an enlightening and informative class on the identity of Lord Shri Krishna. It's very necessary for all of us to know how he manifests and what is our position in seeing him. So I'd like to open the floor for questions from our Zoom audience as well as our in-person audience. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to unmute and ask. Any questions from here?
One day when Krishna showed this universal form, Arjuna was frightened.
Yes, that is true.
So what
Dr.
Krishna did to lessen in frightenness or anxiety?
Pardon?
I mean, what Krishna did for him to not to be frightened?
What he's asking, what
Well,
did
first of all, for him to have the capacity to see, he gave him spiritual vision, and which we can call grace or so on. But then he reverted back to first the four Vishwa, that he changed the form to four-handed, and then he came back to his natural form. That is described in the rest of the chapter.
say it again.
Arjuna was satisfied with that. I mean, he was okay.
Oh yes. He was already satisfied in the last chapter by listening to all the logic and everything, which has been going on from chapter 7 till 11. He had he was convinced, but he knew, like I told you the example of Swami Vivekananda. He was looking for a teacher who can say, have you seen God? If you haven't seen, how can you show me? If you haven't experienced. But we have to understand this is an experiential scale. It is not something, it is not something that you can display.
Yes.
So I understand the difficulty of a scientist. I understand.
Yes.
But magnificent are the ways of the Lord. Some people have realized it, very few.
At the beginning, you mentioned that mind is like a wind.
Yes, it is. I did not mention it. I don't take any credit. It is in Bhagavad Gita,
No,
verse
I read
634.
that, but I want to learn. I want to know where
Yeah.
in the Bhagavad Gita says all these steps that you can take to control your mind. If you can control your mind, you really achieve something.
Yeah.
That's what
That
I
is
want to
true.
know.
Well, if you have Bhagavad Gita, go to verse 634. It says that was the question Arjun raised to Krishna, that my mind is like a storming wind. And you and I know, when you sit down, rest or sleep, our mind goes. Psychologists have done all this research. Our mind is very swift, right? You can be sitting here and think of your loved ones anywhere in the universe, right?
True.
And you can be disturbed. You may be worried about somebody or whatever it may be, or whatever emotion you might have of love, hate, jealousy, whatever, or fear, And Prabhupada has so wonderfully explained the Bhagavad Gita. I have read several, and I can attest to you, it is one of the best translations, one of the best expositions that I can tell you. So, but anyway, the thing is, you can only experience it. That limitation is there, because the dimension is shifted from material to spiritual.
Yes. So I think that control of mind is the foundation.
Yeah, control of mind is the foundation. That's why Dhyan Yoga, chapter 6 is on Dhyan Yoga, basically, which tells you about meditation, which means how do you sit and how do you manage your breath at the same time and do the meditation. Now, it is not easy for everybody. The whole thing is, this is not easy. If I want to run a marathon, I have to do something, right? Even controlling the mind is not easy. To become a yogi, one has to expend a large portion of your life, if one is fortunate. That's my thinking. I haven't reached there yet. I'm not there at all. But I understand the science, because as a scientist, one understands it. And if you do it, you can see the benefit. Experience is there, but the level of experience will be based on the practice. If Ravi Shankar became such a great sitarist, it didn't happen just by few clicks, right? I think you will agree with that. So the yoga is there. And India, I think our Hinduism and the philosophy and scriptures are so powerful, whether in Hatha Yoga or the Dhyan Yoga or Gyan Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, all these Upanishads, all the techniques are explained. But we don't have enough time in our lifetime, basically, for many people, because of we do so many other things, right?
Yes. But
Yeah,
I understand that all the different yogas, the Bhakti yoga is the best. Is that correct?
Well, one can grade it like that, but one cannot be done without the other. See, one of the verses I told you, Jnani, one has to have the desire, first of all. There are steps, one can still concise this Gita and put the thing in how to do it. The steps are there. So one has to go through all of those steps. One can say, yeah, best is Bhakti Yoga, because without Bhakti, actually, all of the others fail in realizing God. But without others, and some people have been able to achieve that. I correct myself in that. Some people without the knowledge have gotten by Bhakti only the realization, which is hard for somebody to explain, but it happens. I mean, there are examples of those. Sant Kabir, there are so many other spiritual people. But if one scientifically looks at it, yes, Bhakti Yoga is you're saying it right, it is the best. Because the whole goal is to connect with God, and that happens through Bhakti. That happens through Shraddha. That happens through devotion. That happens through love. Right? All of the rest of these yogas, whether it's pranayam or karma yoga or others, the goal is to connect with the Lord. And once you do that, you are in a different plane.
Well, given the time left in our life, I don't think we can do all of this yoga. That's why I was thinking about Bhakti Yoga.
That seems perhaps right, but I cannot vouch for it, but I think it is. I mean, that's the only path.
Thank you, Ivanji.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. God bless you. God bless.
Are there any questions from our Zoom audience? Or anyone in here?
But Dr. Kundu, I
Mhm.
think if one has the devotion, my feeling is that it is possible,
Okay.
even in this life, I would hope. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare.
Hare Krishna, Dr. Ravidanji. So thank you so much
Hare.
for your
Hare.
scientific explanation. Actually, you covered in one class, you covered everything. So I think we don't have any doubt. We don't have any questions. If we understand and if we practice, yes. Actually, without other bhakti is like all in all. Like if you bhakti, but if you don't have knowledge, then it bhakti will be not strong. Prabhupada also mentioned. Say Prabhupada, we might think we are doing bhakti like picking flowers, offering bhogas, chanting, paying obeisances. But think about Prabhupada, how knowledgeable he was in this universes. That means if you have a strong, if you have knowledge, then your bhakti will be strong. You know,
Yes.
if somebody offer you $1 million, okay, forget chant Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada's writings amaze me, and the amount that he wrote in the few years, in 12 years after coming here, is amazing. It is supernatural to me. So it's a blessing to have to have known and to have a kind of know all of his work, which is actually so much tremendous. All glories to him. All glories to him.
And Raviji is that lucky person who met Srila Prabhupada. Like, like toss a stone, toss the iron become toss a stone, right? Become gold. Like Prabhupada, actually, you see, yesterday we celebrate Jayapataka Swami, Guru Maharaj,
Because,
Vaishnav.
yeah, if
Okay.
I could add, I'm very amazed with your Guru Maharaj. In spite of his health, he manages to do so much. It is amazing. Also, I don't know him closely, but yes, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Dr. Kundaji, Madan Kunda also met with Guru Maharaj, so he is also another fortunate. So we can see, without seeing we don't believe, but my Guru Maharaj is proof. Without seeing, without seeing, we can prove God is existing. God is existing in this material world, and Guru Maharaj shows so much miracle. I'll tell one miracle, so many miracles, so many like not saying that is happening in this world. So once, like couple of years ago, like one devotee's son is on the deathbed in Malaysia, and since his parents was devotee, the parents was crying and told my son is on the deathbed. Doctor declaring his death the very second. If you give him blessing before he die in this world, Then Guru Maharaj went to the hospital, and Guru Maharaj asked him, and Guru Maharaj, did some meditation, like giving blessings, and this boy, survived, and doctors, nurse, whole hospital, recorded it is impossible, and that critical area, critical bed, that critical this part of the hospital, most of them are like same situation, and he survived. He come back from the hospital, and then suddenly others, they were crying, like their relatives and other patients. So who the 70 person came yesterday, give lives. So he has to come this hospital, and Guru Maharaj again went to the hospital, and so many people survived to get his blessings. One prisoner, like one criminal, he has to hang in this another country. But somehow he heard the Hare Krishna can save him. And Guru Maharaj gave him Diksha by phone. But his punishment is death penalty, But once he got Guru Maharaj's mercy, he was practicing Hare Krishna in this jail, reading Bhagavad Gita because they have a freedom. If you have any other desire, you can fulfill, like before die. And he has been practicing couple of months. He became a very nice guy at this jail. And one time the jailer came, you have a good news. It's a big history. It came to the newspaper, and then jailer, and that guy told, I know that my good news is that this is my last day. Then he told, no, this you released from the, like so much we can tell about him. And he proved, we are not body, we are soul. So thank you, Ravi Devanji, for your support, for your knowledgeable class. You are giving us so much blessings, so we can continue this program. And all of you who are supporting this program, so Krishna will give you blessings, my Guru Maharaj will give you blessings, and we are hoping how we can bring Guru Maharaj, because 40 years ago Guru Maharaj came in this LS University. I think Dr. Bhavasarkarji might be there, or others. Okay, he did Kirtan at the LSU, and so many people were there that time. And he remembered Baton Rouge. So if somehow comes in New Orleans, let's see, we can try. At least we can bring my home. If we cannot arrange program at the LSU campus, but at least some members can, meet with him. Because Guru Maharaj, he does not go like the 1,000 people or important people or any like the big crowd. He cares every single person. Like today on Mataji, actually he sent me Guru Maharaj's voice. It is unbelievable how Guru Maharaj care every single person. Actually, she got message from Guru Maharaj directly. But we are not that fortunate. Might be some temple president or some big people, or he did lot of preaching, but it's very few people got Guru Maharaj's message directly, and she showed Guru Maharaj's message. I will deliver you, I will give you Diksha. I surprised to see. So thank you so much. We will try our best to practice on the age of Kali. The best bhakti yoga is chanting Hare Krishna, and Mahaprabhu mercifully gave this process. This easiest process, because other process is adhikataro kilesho in Bhagavad Gita 18th chapter mentioning adhikataro kilesho. If you go through other path, it is very difficult, because the age of Kali we are so degraded. If we give you prasad, I will not take prasad, I will take alcohol or something else. So this is the nature of the human being in this age of Kali. So Prabhupada and Mahaprabhu mercifully give this process, easy process, just chant and be happy. It has deep meaning. We all can meditate, we can share each other, we can help each other to advance in bhakti life, and your life will be successful. So thank you so much, Dr. Ravi Devanji. Sometimes we like to get your more association, because you are our guardian.
Very good.
Very well.
Very good.
Now we'll do Arati and any other things, because I see there's some decoration for the Lord Ramchandra. I think my daughters will perform some special puja. But you have been long time with us. If anybody is busy, you can leave. But we will do Arati and then some offering to Ram Lakshman Sita, then Prasadam, and anybody close by, please stop by. We made already some Prasadam, especially my wife made all the bhogas. Very well.
Very good.